In this video, we're going to take a look at the entire recovery, triple evacuation, and charge process. Now, just a note as we go through this, these gauges show a center hose that may not be the identical color as the ones on your gauge set. So let's take a walk through and take a look and see the entire recovery, triple evacuation, and charge process. So we start off by hooking up our gauges on the suction and discharge lines. We put the red hose on the high side of the system, usually on the liquid line. We put the blue hose on the low side of the system on the suction line. Then we hook up our gauges using low loss fittings. Again, all gauge handles are closed. We connect the middle line on your gauges, which could be white or yellow, to our recovery machine. Then we take the extra hose and connect it to our recovery cylinder. When these 4 steps are complete, purge the hoses starting from the equipment moving outwards and turn on the recovery unit. Make sure the valves, especially the discharge of the recovery unit and the valve on the tank, is open. Then slowly open the front access handle, keeping the recovery unit pressure below 50 psi as it runs. Run it until the system is empty. When the system is empty, close off all gauge handles. Turn off the recovery unit and close off the cylinder valve. Do not turn off the valve or close the valve on your discharge of your recovery unit or the cylinder until the machine is off. You are going to have a little bit of refrigerant trapped in this high side hose, so just be careful when you take that off. Now, do your repair work. Okay, that's the whole purpose of emptying the machine, of recovering the refrigerant. So at this point you would do your repair work. Then it comes time to evacuate, which means remove air, moisture, and non-condensables from the system. We do what's called a triple evacuation. To start off with, we're going to make sure our gauges are connected back to the system. You want to make sure that any Schrader cores that you removed are put back in. Then you're going to connect your center hose to the vacuum pump. If you have a larger hose, if you have a 4 hose manifold set, use the larger one. Turn on the vacuum pump, open the vacuum pump access valve. Open the front gauge access valves. And then open the side gauge access valves. Let it run until the gauge shows a deep vacuum. Now we are going to be using most often now micron gauges as well. And you need to run these until the micron gauge achieves the desired vacuum. You're going to close the side access gauge valves. You're going to see if the vacuum holds. If not, you're going to go longer on the vacuum. Okay, a proper vacuum will hold at the evacuation point you took it to. When it holds, close the access valve on the vacuum pump. Okay, set up a cylinder to break the vacuum with refrigerant or nitrogen. You're going to break the vacuum and you're going to allow the pressures to even out at 0 psi. Again, either with nitrogen or with refrigerant. Once 0 psi on both gauges, evacuate again. Hook your vacuum pump back up, go through the same process, pull it down into the proper vacuum level, either microns or with your gauges, and you're going to get it back to either like 400 microns or 30 inches of vacuum. You're going to do this again. When it holds, close the access pump, reconnect the cylinder to break the vacuum with refrigerant or nitrogen, and go through the process again. When at 0 psi, evacuate again. We're going to do this basically 3 times. Get the system back to a 500 micron vacuum. Close off the valves and vacuum pump before turning it off. Okay, this is very important because at this point you're going to a 500 micron vacuum. This system at that point, after you've done this whole process 3 times, pull it to a 500 micron vacuum, close off the valve handles, do not disconnect your gauges. Close off all the handles, turn off the recovery machine or turn off the vacuum pump. And this should hold at a 500 micron vacuum. Now, you're going to set up for charging the system. You're going to take your center gauge hose and connect it to the recovery cylinder, and in most cases these days you're going to turn the cylinder upside down to charge as a liquid. Do not charge as a vapor. You're going to open your cylinder handle and you're going to purge that center hose by slowly loosening it at the gauges. Do not open your side gauge handles at this point. Open the access valve on the gauges and slowly crack the high side handle. That means slowly open the high side handle so liquid can flow into the high side. Okay? We do not want to put liquid refrigerant into the low side of the system. When the pressures have equalized, close the high side gauge handle and turn on the system. Okay, again, make sure the system is turned on with the high side gauge handle closed. You can only charge through the high side when the system is not operational. Then you're going to slowly use the low side handle, okay, to charge either by subcooling or superheat to finish off your charge. And of course you do have a scale under the cylinder so you know how much refrigerant you're putting in. Once you're all done with this and once the subcooling or superheat is correct, you should have a properly running system and you can write down all your numbers and remove your gauge set.